But the biggest problem I'm having right now with quitting marijuana, other than the dreams and all this stuff, is I don't know if I ever told you about this disease I have called CSR. It's called central Serous Retinopathy. And what it is in the back of my eye, at the back of my macula, like I don't know if you know much about the eye structure or whatnot, but you have like these different layers and whatnot, and your eye reflects light, right? Like your eye gathers light in an orb and reflects it and it inverts it and all this shit. But the back of that orb in my eye, actually it's almost exactly 2 years ago, like this weekend, probably about 2 years ago, that back of my eye started to blister and bubble up.
Right.
And the way I discovered it is I woke up one day, I was actually working on music. I was working on the Vitamin D record. And I went outside to my car to grab something. I think I left a piece of equipment out there from a jam session, like an effects pedal or something in a bag. So I went to the car and it was very sunny out and I saw the sun with my naked eye and I was getting like that, like when you get sunspots in your eyes, it take a while to go away. Right? I had that, but it was flashing instead of just being there. I had like a flash to it and it didn't go away. Like I came back inside and it kept going. And I went to bed that night. It was still happening.
Wow.
And I told myself, just go to sleep. Because usually sleep fixes things like that, right? Good night of sleep, and wake up and a pain might... Yeah, so I thought, tomorrow you'll be fine. And the first thing I noticed when I woke up is that this flashing light was still in my eyes. And then I remember, within a day or so, that flashing light turned into, like there was like this green orb that was coming out of the side of my vision that was slowly going to the center of my vision. And this green orb, as it got to the center of my vision, it was coloring things. So if I looked at something that was normally yellow, it would be blue inside the orb, And it was getting bigger. And I remember I went to a friend's house because I was getting ready to move to Nova Scotia. So I was saying goodbye to all my friends and having little visits with them and stuff. And I was getting ready to quit my job. Like there's all these changes happening in my life that this was just getting in the way of. And I'm sitting outside in my friend's backyard and I'm looking at the sky and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh, I got this thing in my eye. It's driving me nuts." And I describe it. His wife goes, "Why aren't you at the fucking hospital? What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, it'll go away." She's like, "You could have a tumor or something going on. Like you may have cancer. Like what, why aren't you at the hospital? Why don't you talk to your doctor?" So I went, okay. So the next day I went to the hospital. I drove to the hospital after my last call at work. And I remember I went there and this was like, the COVID stuff still going on. So it's really hard to get into hospitals. I had to wait in line outside in the rain for like 5 hours just to get into the emergency room, just to give my name so I could wait longer. And I ended up, I was at the hospital for probably 12 hours all night before I got to see a doctor. And I didn't see a doctor. I saw an intern from the university. And I sat down and I told her what was going on. And she just treated me like I was a fucking asshole and goes, "It's all in your head." And she looked at my eyes through a scope thing and she goes, "There's nothing wrong with your eyes. It's in your head." So I'm like, so maybe it is cancer. Maybe it is a tumor. It's in my head. Oh my God. So I called a walk-in clinic the next day and said, "I need to see an optometrist like immediately." So I got an appointment with an emergency optometrist, went to see him a couple days later, and he looked at my eye and says, "She's right. It's in your head. This isn't real." And now this thing has gotten so extreme. I'm not seeing straight lines anymore. Everything has a curve to it. Like everything's pinching in towards the middle of my eye. And so it's getting like, I'm having a hard time driving. I'm losing my depth perception. I can't pick up, like I'm at work trying to put screws into holes and I can't find the hole because I can see two of them and one of them's curved and bent.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? So this was really affecting me dramatically. I was getting really panicked. So I went back to the same hospital again because I was told by my neighbor who's a nurse that there's an eye doctor that works there. I forget his name. It's a Greek guy. Like it sounds like a Greek god. It was a really cool name, like Iridonis or something like that. and so I went there and waited in line to see Dr. Iridonis. And I insisted. I got the same intern again, and she's being a complete bitch to me, going like, "So I told you there's nothing wrong with your eye. You went to see an optometrist. He says there's nothing wrong with your eye, and you're back here demanding to see the head doctor?" And I said, "Yes. Treat me with some goddamn respect, and let me see this guy. Like he's in the building. Can you not just come over here and look at my eye? Like I'm not asking him to like give me an hour of his time. Just have him look in my eye, and I'll describe to him what I'm seeing, and I think he'll be able to tell me what's going on here." And at this point, I had an idea that I had a CSR because I've been Googling it like crazy, and I'm finding all these people describing the exact same things, and this is what they're experiencing. So I tell him this. I said, "I think I have a CSR. I think I'm experiencing this, that, whatever else." And you look at it, and he looks at it, and he starts to shine this blue light over my eye. It's like a line. And he's shining it, and it's bending as it's going over the bubble, right? And I see him. He goes, "Come here," and he calls the student over. He's like, "You see that? You see that bend in the light?" And he's describing the same thing I'm seeing because I guess he can see the light bending in my eye differently, right? And she goes, "Yeah, I see that." He goes, "That's his problem. Like that. Why couldn't you see that when he was here last time?" He's berating her in front of me, right? And she apologized to me. Like, she was near in tears because she was like, I know better than this. This is not bedside manner. I was having a bad day. You came in late on a Friday night or whatever it was. And I've been seeing assholes all day long, and you're just another asshole to me. And, I didn't believe you. So she apologized, and her and I got along well because I had to make a few more appointments. I had to go in there. They pumped me full of UV dye and looked at the dye going through my eyes. And they showed me an x-ray picture of my eye and this giant bubble in the back of my macula. And I said, how do I treat this? And they said, there really isn't a treatment for it. We can't drain it. We can't cut your eye open and fix it. You have to find a way to calm down. You got to stop being so stressed out. And I was like,
wait. So I need to get is this is not in the retina. This is on some other part of the.
It's inside your macula, which is like part of like the reflective dome inside your eye that your retina receives the light images from for everything around you.
Right. And what is the bubble? What is in the bubble, or what is how does the bubble form?
Apparently, it's full of cortisol, which is a chemical that gets released in you when you're stressed out.
Right. So that's why they're telling you need to you need to calm down, otherwise your eye's going to explode, basically.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and I'm like in the middle of moving, right? I'm dealing with all this bullshit with hiring to hire movers and all the pandemic stuff, and I'm, my vaccine hesitancy and potential of losing my job and have my whole life turned upside down, right? So I was having a really hard time. And I'm going like, so I remember saying to the doctor, he's like, well, what are your plans for the future? I said, well, I'm moving to Nova Scotia. I got a house on the ocean. He goes, well, that should lower your stress. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm moving in with my mom and my dad and my sister-in-law, my brother, and, and
so he's giving you a stress score,
Yeah, right. So I remember I went home and I started like, and right now I'm smoking marijuana at this point too, right? And I'm reading about paranoia and marijuana, and I want to see how marijuana reacts. And cortisol is something that your body produces. That's what creates the paranoia. Is your body has a stress reaction to marijuana, right? So I'm going like, shit, marijuana is fucking my eye up. It's part of the problem, right? So I quit smoking weed. And plus I thought it was great. I'm moving to Nova Scotia. I'm having a whole new life. So I thought that'd be a really good distraction from like the normalcy of day to day. So when you're dealing with an addiction, nothing's worse than doing the same thing, right? But having everything change, that's a great way. So no problem. I got here, I put the marijuana away immediately. Like, it was no problem. I smoked my last joint like before I left. Like, I remember I was packing my shit up in Ontario, and I smoked a joint and hit a bong and packed it up in a box, and it was like 2 hours later, we're driving to Nova Scotia, and I got here and I left it all packed up, put it away in the barn, up in the top of the barn, left it in a box, and the ice slowly got better a little bit. And then it turned out there's this guy, Iridonis, is supposed to be the best eye doctor in the whole country, right? The guy that spotted my problem immediately. Well, he has a colleague here in Nova Scotia that he considers the other best eye doctor in the country. A guy named Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta. Yeah. And so he makes me an appointment with Dr. Gupta. So I go down to see Dr. Gupta after I've been here for 4 or 5 months. And he's a complete asshole. I can't stand this guy. His bedside manner is atrocious, and he's very short with the way he talks. And it was a very unappealing conversation. But he looked at my eye and goes, yeah, whatever you're doing is not working. Like, you got to calm down. So I told him, I stopped smoking marijuana. And he goes, why? I told him about all the cortisol and shit. He goes, yeah, but marijuana relaxes you. I said, nah. I said, do you smoke marijuana? He goes, no, but I hear it's very relaxing. I said, it can be, but not for me. It's not. Like, for me, it's just a headspace I like to get into, and he goes, yeah, but like, I prescribe marijuana for these kind of symptoms and whatnot, and I said, okay, well, maybe I'll start doing some marijuana again. And I did. That's when I decided to try it again on New Year's Eve, with, hanging out with my family and stuff. And I noticed within like 2 weeks of bringing marijuana back in my life, 90% of the symptoms went away. Like, my eye went almost back to normal. And I went back to see the doctor, and he showed me the eye, and he's like, look, the bubble's as low. He said, your eye is as good as it's going to get. It's never going to go back to 100%. You have done the best you can do. Congratulations. Like, keep it up. And that was very depressing to me, to be like, to hold that, like, I have to smoke marijuana to keep my eyesight, because I don't like being stoned. Like, I hate being stoned, at this point in my life again. And my memory is not what it used to be when I'm smoking weed. I don't recall having a problem with short-term memory, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but I don't recall but nowadays when I smoke marijuana and I watch a movie with Megan, I don't pay attention to the movie. So I don't think it's a lack of short-term memory. It's a lack of giving a shit about what's going on around you enough to. So like when I'm watching a movie with Megan, I'm writing songs in my head. Right. So she's going like, "Oh, what do you think of this character? And what do you think of that?" And I'm going like, "I got no idea." And she's like, "What do you mean? Are you not watching the same movie I'm watching? Like I'm just looking through the screen."
Yeah.
And I don't recall having that problem when I was younger. But when you smoke it for 2 decades, I guess your brain finds a way to cope with it, and you start to function properly to a certain degree. But I've lost that ability. So now I'm like thinking like I'm losing all these memories of Mackenzie. I'm losing all these memories of my experience of being a father. So I'm going like, I got to quit this stuff. I got to get it out of my life. I didn't even think about my eye. It wasn't even part of my conscious decision. But now my eye is going back to that again. I'm starting to see the fucking bend light and the blob in my eye, and it's horribly depressing.
Is there something else that would do the same job though?
Well, I have a doctor's appointment next week. I'm going to ask my doctor to get me a marijuana prescription, which I think he's going to say no, because doctors don't like to do that here in Canada for some stupid reason. But my doctor's new to me, so I'm hoping he'll be more receptive, especially if I tell him what I'm telling you right now. And I want to get a prescription for CBDs, because the CBDs don't have the psychoactive effect. But I'm hoping they'll have the effect. I'm hoping they'll have this effect because they lower inflammation and all this stuff, right? So I'm hoping, and my benefits with work apparently do cover medical marijuana if you have a license and you have a prescription for a medical reason. So I'm hoping, because I can't afford to be buying. CBDs are horribly expensive. Like I'd be spending $30-$40 a day on this stuff if I wanted to. Whereas I can buy a bag of weed for $30 at the reserve and smoke it for a month.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with how to proceed forward here. So I'm hoping, and if my doctor won't give it to me, apparently I can get a doctor online that'll do it for me. So I can go through the hoops to get it. But that's my next step. Is I want to go to CBDs, and and do that. And I'm hoping the CBDs will provide me whatever it is I'm looking for. But this, CSR is driving me crazy. It's bumming me out. But at this point, I got so good at coping with it, I still rather have a bummed eye. And thankfully, I'm left eye dominant, so it's not my dominant eye.
All right.
So I can still read and everything. I can drive all right and everything like that.